items in the list, like the good child of immigrants that I am, I get greedier and greedier. It is not enough for us to outdo and outperform half a dozen sitting senators and governors and congresspeople. It is not enough for us to make the debate stage and mainstream this entire automation conversation. It is not enough to be the first Asian American presidential candidate on the debate stage. And believe you me, we are going to make the stage in December, so don't have any doubt about that. Chicago, none of these things is enough, because as with everything you've done in life that you care deeply enough about to devote years of your life to, the plan is to win. And it's going to be the people here in this room that put us in position to win, the people that put your hard-earned money into this campaign, because we're taking every dollar that you give tonight. And if you haven't given as much as you can, please give a bit more. Because I'm about to tell you where it's going to go. It's going to go to advertising in the great state of Iowa, just 3 short hours away. It's going to go to advertising in New Hampshire, a little bit more than 3 hours away. I was just there on Tuesday and Monday. Crowds bigger than ever. And one of the greatest signs is I asked, hey, how many of you have seen me speak before? It used to be a lot, now it was like a little. And then it was like, how many of you seen ads on television? And then like all the hands went up. So you see how it works. Like they see TV ads, then they see him coming to town. They're like, oh, I'll check that guy out. He seems like he has some interesting things to offer. That means it's working. And this really is like a startup that way, because you all get that feedback from your market. Like if you've got the restaurant, you walk around, you like figure out what's working, you figure out the menu items. You say people keep ordering this and not that. People keep like, telling their friends about this particular thing. It's the same thing in this campaign. The energy is growing. We're going to grow and grow. We're going to peak at the right time. And we have a chance to shock the world and make history and move our entire country forward on February 3rd. Yeah. Because they're not going to solve their own problems. They can barely even acknowledge the real problems. It's going to be up to us, the people, the entrepreneurs, the parents, and the citizens of this country to get it done. We're going to take those media companies who just keep being like, I'm not sure I understand this entire Andrew Yang phenomenon. And I'm just going to make it impossible for them to ignore what we've built here. Because as we're going, especially after I make this debate in December, they're going to look up and being like, apparently there is a person of color on the debate stage.
Yeah. We're left in the dust.
I'll tell you guys this joke. It's like, I was like, we're about to find out if Asians are white.
It's official. It's painful.
Oh, man.
It's official.
Oh, sorry.
It's official.
Where are you thinking it? Apparently the media, it's like some of the stuff they're talking about. I was just like, it's like, have you grown up Asian in this country? It's like right on, you'll see. It's like, it's definitely its own thing. You know what I mean? I mean, you all know what I mean.
I don't. Sorry.
So this is some of the humanity that Stephen experienced on that car drive, like 6 hours. 6 hours. So I am just like you, a builder, an entrepreneur, saw the problem, said there's only one way to solve them, and that's by taking control of the government and start rewriting these rules to work for people. There is no other way. And this is from someone who, frankly, has a natively, moderately low interest in being a politician and recognize the limitations of government. But we have to face facts. At this point, the almighty market is just running everything, and it's running everything in a way that's going to end up leaving more and more people behind. And there is no way that you can actually arrest this process and reverse it, much less reverse it, unless you have a government that has its act together, that is putting the resources into different areas. There's no other way to do it. And when you realize this, then your set of rational options shrinks very, very quickly. But Americans are smart. Americans are eager for change. Americans have been casting about for a change agent actually for years. I was just interviewing with the editorial board of one of the biggest newspapers in the country, and they were asking me about, like, hey, why do you think you're doing so well? And I said to them, look, tens of millions of Americans decided to take a bet on Donald Trump. because they were casting about, unfortunately, for a different type of president. Bernie Sanders came close to becoming the Democratic nominee because people were casting about for someone to actually change things significantly. Even Barack Obama, out of the great city of Chicago, won in 2008 because Americans were looking for someone to change things significantly. Like, we've been looking for a change agent for a long time. Millions of Americans know it's not going to spring from someone who's been in the system for decades and decades. And so the fact that we are doing this well is absolutely no surprise to me at all.
Yep.
So I said this to the editors of this, massive newspaper, and you can almost see them being like, is what he's saying true? Oh, I wish we could do like one of those. It's not Stranger Things, like Strange Days thing, where someone could just like jump in my head and just like download all these experiences of the last number of days.
I'll do it for you.
That'd be actually, you're doing an excellent job to the extent it exists. That's with some of the people that have been documenting this campaign. Though I will say, we had to get you the footage of the earliest days, because when you see that stuff, the Yang Gang is going to laugh so hard. We have some of the early footage, and it is some funny stuff.
Improvement!
Thank you. It is an improvement. This is an improvement.
OG Liang Gang, though.
Oh, it's OG Yang Gang. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, just like the early days of this business were beautiful. It's beautiful, just like the early days of all of your businesses were beautiful. You know what I mean? Like when the business was just like an idea, or you were like literally just thinking, it's like, oh, what are we gonna name this? Like things like, you know what I mean? How many of y'all are parents like me? I liken starting a business to having a child. It's similar to that, It's like, I actually had this list in my book, and if you haven't seen it, it was like, ways being an entrepreneur and raising a child are the same. And it was things like, nobody cares as much about it as you. The first 2 years are miserable. Everyone lies about it. Everything costs more than you thought it was going to. And I compared raising a child and starting a business to a series of like just jumping on a grenade and waiting for it to explode, and then just like looking around and see if everything's okay. And you're like, all right. And then you just wait around and do that again, and you do it again and again and again for a period of years. Parents are laughing at this. Entrepreneurs, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, let me jump on that one now. But if you do that for a period of time, sometimes amazing things happen. And I would say that this campaign has the opportunity to be the most amazing story, not just in American political history, but perhaps one of the most important and amazing stories in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because I want you all to imagine the headlines when I win or come very, very close to winning in your neighboring state of Iowa and New Hampshire. When I win, can you imagine the headlines then? It's going to be very hard to omit me from the graphic that time. They'll be like, coming in at second place, this person. Coming in at third place, this person. They're like, who came in first? But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this fourth place winner. They had some really interesting things of support for the fourth place. So you can imagine those headlines. You can imagine the country realizing that we can do better for ourselves, we can make these choices, we can fundamentally improve our way of life. But I want you all to imagine the rest of the world. Because the rest of the world for the last several years have been like, what the heck has happened in the United States of America? I mean, heck, the world leaders are like laughing at Trump the other day. It was like freaking high school, or even worse, like junior high. It was like, oh, they're laughing at me behind my back. I'm so mad. He's so two-faced.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I'm gonna not sit with him at the same lunch table. Like that's what kind of crap. So that's what's happening at like a global level now. And I'm going to say the rest of the world, after I win and I get inaugurated in 2021, the rest of the world will be like the United States of America turned that around in an awful hurry. And so that's going to be this incredible emblem to the world. And then when we start actually putting more economic resource into the hands of our people, do you think other countries might follow suit? Yeah. Do you think that Sweden and Denmark and all these countries that pride themselves on being so much cooler than us After we start getting it going, they'll be like, what? The United States of America did that. Like, they're not going to out Sweden. And then you can see it happening in a whole vein of Western countries and Latin American countries, because some of them are already implementing it. And then, like, India is already implementing a version of it. This has the potential to catalyze a global movement that eradicates poverty and improves the human condition.
Yes.